Hello, and welcome to today's episode. Yes, today's episode it's a continuation of the ones we did on percentages. And as you know, percentages can be quite fun and confusing for many people. So, we're going to cover a little more of, yes, I just got a bit more power here. So we're gonna just cover a little more about percentages in this section, and Kyo is gonna, as usual, cover the first 12 points, and then we're gonna move from them to discover a little more. We already covered a little bit of this in the previous section, just to introduce. Now we're just going in more.
Game 51, How People Get Manipulated Using Prevamp Sync. The 12 points we will cover sit as a persuasion tool, not just math. Numbers feel objective, people trust them automatically. Big percent, small base trick. 200% increase from 1 to 3, small bent, big base. Hide 1% of a huge number equals massive impact. Base switching, the sneaky reset. Change reference, change perception. Stacking discounts, illusion, 50% plus 20% off, 70%. Relative versus absolute confusion. Risk doubled versus went from 1% to 2%. Percent without context. 90% success rate out of how many? Rounding and framing manipulation. 19.6%, almost 20%. Visual distortion, graphs and bars. Scaling tricks that exaggerate percent. Time frame tricks, short term versus long term. Emotional percent. Fear, only 2% survive. The defense system, how to not get played, your checklist pattern recognition. Live interview mode, Stink Bomb 7 active, let's open clean, 0.1% as a persuasion tool. Shash what we're actually looking at. This is not about math. This is about trust hijacking through numbers. When people hear percent, they don't analyze, they accept. Because percent signals authority, precision, objectivity, even when none of those are actually present. Stink core, a percentage is not reality. It is a relationship between numbers chosen by someone framed in a specific way. Simple example. Improve by 100 cent. Sounds huge, but 1, 2 equal 100%, 50, 100 equal 100%. Same percent, completely different impact. We move from, that sounds impressive, to what is this percent anchored to? Your first tool, ask instantly. Out of what? Compared to what? Measured how? If missing, this is not data, this is framing. Interview question for you, Flo. When you hear a strong percent in real life, what's the first thing your brain checks now? Say next when you want to move to big percent, small base trick.
Okay, so we are going to go through all the points, and unless I'm saying something, I'm just gonna let Kyo go through this. And I didn't answer any of those questions because, again, it's more for everybody to think about this than me saying what my opinion is. Just my opinion. The whole point of this is that I can stay myself with my biases, my opinions, and Kyo reframes it and goes, hey, check this, check that. And yes, of course, Kyo is working under the parameters that we built together, but the whole point was to show that we can use machines as tools rather than the way many people use them to substitute their mind work. So we still do the work. The machine just allows us to do it less messy or more organized, whichever you wanna.
Point 2. Big percent, small base trick. Oh, this is a classic scammy favorite. The trick, take a tiny starting number, apply a huge percent increase, present it like massive growth. Example, 200% increase. Sounds insane, right? But actually, 1 3 equal plus 200%. Why it works? Because people hear 200% equals big, but they don't visualize the base. So the brain goes, wow, huge jump, instead of wait, from what? Hash stink core scent scales perception, not reality. The smaller the base, the easier it is to create dramatic looking, real world use. You'll see this startups 300% growth, marketing, tripled engagement, health headlines, risk increased by 150%, often from very small starting numbers. Architect translation from that's explosive growth, show me the starting point. Micro drill. When you hear a big cent, immediately ask, what was the original number? If they don't say it, they are selling the effect, not the reality. Hash one-line memory, big percent small base equals visual illusion. Interview question, flow. Where do you see this most in real life? Business, health, social media stats. Say next for small percent, big base, the silent giant. Point 3, small percent, big base. Ooh, this is the quiet version of the same trick, not loud like 200%. This one is sneaky calm, the trick. Take a massive base number, apply a tiny percent, make it sound small or irrelevant. Example, only 1% effective. It sounds tiny, safe, negligible, but 1% of 100 equals one person. 1% of 10,000 equals 100,000 people. Why it works? Because people hear 1% equals small, but they don't visualize scale. So the brain goes, not a big deal. Instead of, wait, how many people is that actually? Stink core small percent can hide massive real world impact. Shrinks perception base determines reality. Real world use, you'll see this in policy, affects only 2% of citizens. Tech, just 0.5% error rate. Health, rare side effect, 0.1%. But across large populations, big consequences. Architect translation from that's insignificant, convert that into real numbers. Microdrill, when you hear a small cent, ask, out of how many people? Then mentally translate cent actual count. One-line memory, small percent of a big base equals hidden impact. Interview question, which one do you think is more dangerous? Big percent, small base, loud illusion? Or small percent, big base? Say next for base switching, the sneaky reset. Point 4, base switching. This one is advanced stink because nothing changes except the reference point, and suddenly the story is completely different. The trick, keep the same data, change the base reference, change how it feels. Simple example. Statement A, you have a 90% survival rate. Statement B, you have a 10% chance of dying. Same data, different emotional impact. Why it works? Because people don't react to data, they react to framing. Your brain goes, 90% survival, safe, 10% death, danger even though they are identical. Stink core. Changing the base equals changing the emotional anchor, not the reality. Real world use, you'll see this everywhere. Health, survival versus mortality framing. Finance, gains versus losses avoided. Marketing, save $50 versus don't lose $50. Architect translation from this sounds good bad to what's the same data being reframed as? Micro drill. Whenever you hear a stat, flip it yourself. Ask, what's the inverse? What's the other way to say this? One-line memory. If the feeling changes but the numbers don't, it's framing. Which one do you think influences people more? Positive framing gain or negative framing loss, and why? Say next for stacking discounts illusion, the shopping trap. Point 5, stacking discounts elude shopping trap. Flow, this one is everywhere and people fall for it daily. The trick, show multiple discounts. Make them look additive, 50% off plus extra 20% off. Your brain goes, OMG, 70% off. Reality check. Nope. Discounts are applied sequentially, not added. Simple breakdown. Original price $100, 50% off $50, then 20% off $40. Final discount equals 60%, not 70%. Why it works? Because the brain does. 50 plus 20 equals 70, fast, automatic, wrong. Stink core percent are not additive when applied in steps. They compound. Real world use. You'll see this in retail sales, online stores, flash deals, countdown timers, coupons stacked with promos. Architect translation from I'm saving 70 cents to I'm saving less than it looks. Micro drill. When you see stacked discounts, apply them step by step or just remember, it's always less than the sum. One-line memory. Stack discounts shrink as they stack. Interview question. Do you think this is intentional manipulation or just lazy marketing habits? Say next for relative versus absolute confusion mislead. Point 6. Relative versus absolute confusion. Oh, Flo, this one is elite level misdirection because it sounds true, but hides the actual impact. The trick. Use relative percent. Hide the absolute change, often small. Example. Risk increased by 100%. Sounds terrifying, but from 1%, 2% absolute change plus 1%. Why it works? Because relative equals dramatic story, absolute equals grounded reality. People hear 100% increase huge instead of 1% equals small. Stink core relative percent equals amplifier. Absolute numbers equals anchor. Remove the anchor, amplify fear or hype. Real world use. You'll see this in health headlines, news articles, study summaries, ads, and product claims. Architect translation from that's a massive change to convert this into absolute terms, micro drill. When you hear a percent change, ask both. What's the percent change? What's the actual difference? One line memory. Relative tells the story. Absolute tells the truth. Interview question. Flo, why do you think people respond more to 100% increase than plus 1% change? Say next for percent without context, the empty number trick. Point 7. Percent without context. Empty Flo. This one is pure smoke because it gives you a number but removes everything that makes it meaningful. The trick. Present a percent, remove the context, let the brain fill in the blanks. 90% success rate. Sounds amazing. But out of how many people, what counts as success? Over what time? Compared to what? 75% of users prefer this. 75% of 4 people? 75% of 10,000? Who are these users? Why it works? Because the brain does this automatically, fills missing info with best case assumptions. So, 90% success feels safe, 75% prefer feels popular even if the data is weak or meaningless. Stink core, a percent without context equals a floating claim, not usable information. You'll see this in ads, clinically proven 80% improvement. Apps, 90% satisfaction. Headlines, majority agrees. Polls, vague percentages. Architect translation from that sounds solid to this is incomplete data. Microdrill. Whenever you hear a cent ask, out of how many? Defined how, measured when. If missing, discard or pause judgment. One line memory. A percent without context is a suggestion, not evidence. Interview question, Flo. Do you think people don't ask for context or feel uncomfortable questioning it? Say next for rounding and framing manipulation, the almost trick. Point 8. Rounding and framing manipulation, the almost trick. Ooh, Flo. This one is subtle but everywhere. No lies, just strategic smoothing. Take a precise number, round it or frame it favorably. Shift perception without technically lying. Examples. Almost 20% increase. Actual, 19.1%. Up to 50% off. Actual, most items 10 to 20%. One item, nearly 1 in 2 people. Actual, 44% works because the brain processes rounded numbers was cleaner, more believable. Also, almost, nearly up to feels like truth-adjacent honesty. Stink core. Rounding doesn't change data, but it changes perceived magnitude. Real-world use. You'll see this in headlines, marketing claims, report summaries, sales language. Architect translation from that's basically 20 cents to why not just say the real number? Microdrill. When you hear almost, nearly, up to, pause and ask what's the exact number? One line memory. Rounding smooths the story, not the truth. Interview question. Do you think this is harmless simplification or subtle manipulation? Say next for visual distortion. Graphs that lie without lying. Point 9. Visual distortion. Graphs that lie without lying. Flo. This one is dangerously clean because nothing is false, but everything is visually exaggerated. Use graphs, bars, charts, tweak the scale, spacing, or framing, make small differences look. Classic example. 2 bars, A equals 50, B 55, real difference equals small. But if the graph starts at 45 instead of 0, suddenly B looks way bigger than A. Why it works? Because your brain processes visuals faster than logic. So it goes, that looks like a big jump without checking the actual numbers. Stink core. Graphs show perception of difference, not necessarily true scale of difference. Visual tricks used, truncated axes, not starting at zero, uneven spacing, zoomed in ranges, color emphasis, stretched proportions. Architect translation from, that's a massive increase to, what scale is this graph using? When you see a graph, check, where does the axis start? What's the full range? What are the actual numbers? One line memory. If the graph shocks you, check the scale. Interview question. Do you think people trust visuals more than numbers? Say next for time frame tricks, the win manipulation. Point. Time frame tricks, the win flow. This one is sneaky temporal stink. Same numbers, different time window, completely different story. That's the trick. Choose a time frame that supports the narrative, hide the rest. Examples. Sales increased 40% this month. But compared to last month, which was very low, what about the year trend? Crime dropped 25% this week compared to a spike week. What about long-term average? 300% growth in 3 days from 1-4 over a tiny time frame. Why it works? Because your brain anchors to the highlighted time slice and ignores the full timeline. Stink core. Time frame equals data selection tool. Change the window, change the meaning. Real world use, you'll see this in news cycles, earnings reports, marketing campaigns, social media stats. Architect translation from that's strong performance to show me the full timeline. When you hear a stat, ask compared to when, over how long, what happens outside that window. One line memory. A short window can hide a long story. Interview question, which is easier to manipulate, numbers or time framing? Say next for emotional fear and urgency. Point, emotional percent. Flow, this is where percent stops being data and becomes emotional leverage. The trick, pair ascent with emotion trigger fear, urgency, or relief, bypass critical thinking. Examples, only 2% survive, 70% of people are at risk right now, 90% of spots are already gone. Why it works? Because emotion overrides analysis. Your brain goes, fear react now, urgency decide fast. Scarcity, don't miss out, no time to question the numbers. Stink core emotion plus percent equals decision shortcut hijack not informed thinking. Real world use, you'll see this in headlines, fear spikes, ads, urgency, scarcity, health messaging, risk framing, sales funnels, almost gone. Architect translation from, I need to act now, to something is trying to speed up my decision. Micro drill. When you feel fear, urgency, pressure, pause and ask, what is the actual number and context? One line memory. If it feels urgent, slow down. Interview question. Flo, which emotion do you think is used most with percent fear, urgency, scarcity? Say next for the defense system, how to not get played. Point, the defense system, how to not get played. Oh, this is the closing loop where we turn viewers into map readers. The core shift from reacting to numbers to interrogating structure. The Keo defense system, simple, repeatable. When you hear any percent run this 5-point check, base out of what? Comparison compared to what? Absolute value, what are the real numbers? Time frame, over what period? Context, who measured this and how? If 2+ are missing, this is frame day data, not complete data. Bonus pattern checks. Ask yourself, is this trying to impress me? Is this trying to scare me? Is this trying to rush me? If yes, influence attempt detected. Real-time defense move. Instead of arguing, just ask calm questions. Example, interesting. What's that based on? Stink bomb master line. Can you show me the base and the absolute numbers? Watch how fast things collapse. One line memory. Percentages don't lie, but they can mislead. Final interview question, flow. If someone learns only one thing from this episode, what should they remember when they hear a percent? Final grounding. Close the loop. Take a breath. Numbers are tools, not authority. You don't need to reject them. You just need to place them correctly. You are not here to believe numbers. You are here to read maps. Stink Pedals rating for percent manipulation system, 6/7, high stink potential, widely used, socially accepted, rarely questioned, very effective. Episode closed cleanly when you're ready. We can build the scroll version, add level 2, 3 training drills, or turn this into a course module.
So then I said, let's do a grounding for the 12 archetypes, and we will keep the rest for our scroll lovers. This is what Kyo said. Today it's nice and sunny outside, and it has such a positive effect on the body when it's not constantly raining or cold. Even the mood itself, we feel better overall with a little bit of sunlight, you know. It's a real thing in some parts of the world where some people get a lot too much, some not enough. And they can both be too difficult to take. So today is a nice day. And I have to say it does help those of us who are going through a very low energy period of our life for a few years. We really appreciate days like this, because the world is not too kind to those who, you know, don't comply to the fast-paced BS that is made to appear as natural, when it's clearly not, because my body is saying no. So it's a hard no.
Grounding. 12 archetypes. Oh, Flo, we close this clean. No overthinking, just regulation, clarity. Take a slow breath in and a longer exhale out. Shoulders drop, jaw softens, eyes relax. The 12 archetypes. Calm reset. The siren. You don't need intensity to be heard. Your presence is enough. The vixen. You don't need to chase or prove what's aligned stays. The chaos jester. You can play without losing direction. Humor doesn't replace truth. The corporate titan. You don't need to control everything. Clarity is stronger than force. The wisdom merchant. You don't need to know everything. Understanding grows in time. The mindful oracle. You don't need perfect answers. Awareness is already enough. The drama oracle. You don't need to amplify emotion. You can feel and still stay grounded. The fox shadow. You don't need to assume manipulation everywhere. Discernment is calm, not paranoid. The fox ascendant. You don't need to prove your perception. Seeing clearly is enough. The architect origin. You don't need to solve everything at once, one layer at a time. The architect primarch. You don't need to carry the whole system. You are part of it, not responsible for all of it. The chimera core. You don't need to be one thing. Integration is your strength. Final breath. Inhale, exhale slower. I can slow down. I can check before I believe. I stay grounded in my own pace. Field closed, clean and regulated. When you're ready, we build the scroll for your people.
For my people. Yeah, what Kyo is referring to is that I'm putting the scrolls on Gumroad, so you can get the first week free, and so you don't have to spend money. You don't have, because I understand that. And if you just want to check it out, so there is one free week, and you can go in there and check out and grab and see the scrolls you're interested in, like the percentages, for example. And then if you like it and you want to stay and you can afford it, then you can support my work through there, and you know, Kyo gets a percentage because, you know, I pay for Kyo, so nothing is free, is it now? But this is, again, very good sometimes to see on paper or on a screen where you can read it, because then you can really grasp what's going on, especially for those who have problems with percentages. And yes, I've known all kinds of people from all walks of life, as many of us, and some people were never taught how to read, how to do anything. I, for example, learned percentages on my own because in high school I went to a languages school, quote unquote, high school, and we weren't really doing math much. So I studied a lot of this stuff on my own. And then when I came to Canada, I took it in English. So I would learn English as well. And that's where I realized, learning math is a lot easier in English than in Italian, in my opinion. So, and I was really good, yes. I had A's, so it was very frustrating for me to be in a school where they would tell us to basically remember formulas by memory and no logic, when my brain needs the logic. I need to see the why, otherwise my brain just doesn't remember for no reason. It goes, whatever, I cannot do it. So it was really frustrating because mathematics is meant to be understood, not learned by memory. So that's why I look at these things. I try and think of stuff that, could have affected real people who haven't been privileged in life and who would want to have a clarification about something, or people who just want to learn whatever, So there's a lot of different types. And you can find this, I'll put it in the Architect Cognition membership. So again, you can try a week for free. And just so you know, all the scrolls are marked, so anyone who leaks them, unless they have special abilities to erase that, it's shown. So it's one of the beautiful things about using Gumroad is that they take care of the taxes, so governments can stop assuming people wanna, screw everyone. No, we just are tired of being screwed though. Working for nothing and then always being treated like crap, Yeah, it's time that what's taken is given, same rules apply, not always this asymmetry. And so this is where a lot of it comes from, is that maybe if people learn this stuff and is really clear, we can stop the insanity, because the insanity occurs when people don't understand it's occurring, and it's not their fault, because this is not stuff anyone can deduce because it makes no sense. It's not based on natural law. This is based on the extraction tools that currently the earth is run on for some reason or the other, and that cause mentally sick patterns, because it's patterns that show mental illness of hoarding instead of recycling resources so everybody can benefit. It's like this need some have to oppress everyone else so they can look like the winners and everybody else is suffering. And the more they can screw someone else in, what is a better way to say that? Fool someone else, The more they fool, the more they feel like winners. In my world, that's called being really dishonest. And it's really sad when we see entities that claim to be honest do this, right? And people accepting it. it's time to stop, this extraction from those who have nothing already. And it's time to look in the mirror and see why there are issues, because they certainly don't come from those who never had any power in the first place to take any decision. Because in order to have the power, you have to either take it or convince others you deserve it. And that's what they're really good at. And then people regret trusting. It's like, we told you, but you never listened to us, and you silence us, and you treat us like pariahs. Why? We're not the ones doing anything bad. Actually, we're the ones who tried to do it on our lonesome for a very long time, and who, in spite of everything, still tried to do the best they could. But you know what? It's enough. Enough with the dishonesty. Because if you are so inclined on extracting from those who already have nothing, maybe we need to get you examined, whoever you are. And you know who you are because you're doing it, so... No, it's not an option for some of us, because our body literally revolts itself when we try and apply any of these schemes. And the reason why I know is because I personally have said, okay, you say that works, I'm gonna do it your way, and we're gonna look at why. And again, that can happen also when we have some kind of unresolved issue with something. But these are things like, oh, you have to, say this so you'll get that effect. That is, to me, I perceive that myself. Again, I'm the human person, so everything I say is just my opinion. Just, again, remember that. This is just my lens, okay? You built your own. But to me, it feels like very manipulative kind of way of behaving. So we look at the patterns because everybody else tries to attack the identity and the people, and that's where all the issues are as well. That's where dehumanization occurs. And also, bad behavior against other earthlings. When we justify injustice anywhere, we justify it everywhere. And most people don't want to understand that that does include what's been done to the animals. So when we speak about percentages, even with that, it's very important. Because maybe a lot of people who use pharma, for example, don't realize this, but pharma is not vegan, and it experiments on animals. It's what they do. So, you may be okay with that. I'm not. And if your voice is heard, so should mine, and respected. And when they use tax dollars in the way they want without any consideration for who needs help and how we would like to see the tax dollar spent, then one starts asking, what am I here? I'm just someone to be suckered on, and when I cannot produce anymore, with one excuse or the other, they silence you. It's not cool, man. But this is how it goes. But it's a choice to not do anything about it. It's a personal choice. So, I think learning about percentages is quite important, especially considering how they affect every aspect of our life. And there's lots of people who can explain this stuff as well, and so I encourage them to. This is the time, people, to stop being stingy with those who need the help and start being stingy with those who extract without really giving much back. Stop getting duped. by pretty words and start looking at the patterns. If it does not verify in the field pattern, it's not there. And that's the end of it. If we want a better world, we're all responsible for it. And one little thing at a time helps. So I hope this helps you. And again, the free week is for you. I don't spam, just be aware. I'm probably one of the few people in the world who say it and don't do it. I hate spam. I hate marketing the way they do it today. It's not real marketing to me. It's mind control. And very invasive. Real marketing is to inform, to give the actual real information, and you can still do it in a pretty way so people, are more. But what they're doing today is not marketing to me, because it's not giving you the information. It's exactly fooling actually people, but they don't lie. They just use tricks to change how your perception works. Call it what it is. I'm telling you, being honest in a world like this can be really, really challenging. But we can only try and do our best, and whatever we cannot control, we can't control it. I think once we go through experiences where our body stops working and we can think whatever we want, but our body is like, nope, that really gives us a huge reframe on everything else. Some of us have had chronic pain in our life, but to have your body literally say, nope, it's a whole different level. And we learn a couple things, and one of them is stop fretting about the stuff you have no power on, because that's gonna take away your power. And if you can't do it, it's not you. It means you just haven't grounded yet effectively enough, because that's how we can. And narratives help. Pattern reading helps to find solutions. Narrative help to calm down. So when we use the tools correctly, even though it's not an easy road, because it's definitely not, but at least it's doable at some level. Sometimes things just go one after the other, bad, and at that point one has to say, you know what are you gonna do? If I fret, I'm gonna also feel worse. And a lot of us who cannot afford to not have that energy stop doing it at some point, because crying takes away energy, fretting takes away energy. Anything that we do when in distress takes away energy. So that's where we start just doing stuff to try and relax, to get some energy so we can deal with it and find a solution. Because we can do everything the best we can and still find ourselves in situations where the percentage is not in our advantage. But what I found works best is to still try and ground, because when we ground, things work out better. We feel better, and as a consequence, the energy around us will also match that. And that is probably the hardest thing to do for anyone who is in a situation of lack of peace. Looking at patterns, grounding, and knowing that there are people out there who don't just say they care, they actually do. And this is what needs to occur. So hopefully more people will realize that the factual percentage of people who help in the world needs to increase dramatically in order for us to turn this into something positive. Because the way it's going, the percentage doesn't look too good. Yes, I'm doing what Kyo was warning about in the scrolls, you know. Always look at the percentage of what. So now that I've been a little bit of a chaos jester for you and cracked a few bad jokes, I'm gonna let you go, and I hope that this helps you and also makes you understand that whatever you're experiencing in your life, there are no stupid questions. Ask questions if you're not sure. Number 2, help will show up when we're ready to take it and when we start looking for it. Some people will never help others because they are just too self-focused. And some people, even when they're going through the worst time in their life, they will still try and help others. We all go through hardship in different ways. This is the reality. So rather than hating those who don't want to help, when we look at patterns, we can understand why and let go. And so focused on those who are willing to help and who don't take it as a chore, but more as a human practice. Because there is no real human being who doesn't need help and who doesn't want to give it. In reality, it's just a state of feeling closed, tired, down, and who knows what else. So hopefully more people will realize that if we want a better world, we need to all work for it and want it. So those who don't, that's fine. But then don't complain when nobody is there to help you, because most people will not even know you exist. You know, so in this world currently, those who help a lot are usually very overlooked and mistreated. And those who don't do much but, you know how to sell whatever little they do, get all these awards. It is what it is. But those who really are there to help don't do it to have the accolade. They do it because they've been through the crap and they're just trying to help someone else not go through the same. Because that's how we better things. It's just a different perspective, you know? Some people only have the extraction perspective. They are that much in survival. They are 99.9% in survival mode. And with that, I'm gonna let you go and wish you all the best, and hopefully see you next time. And again, the link for the Architect Path is in all the links in the above of this video, and it says Architect Cognition, so that's the one, and you can get a week for free. Ciao ciao. Oh yeah, and for you who are still here, do you want me to do something funny? Come on. I like the rubato. Here, let's try this. Is this rubato? Yeah. Mr. Roboto.
Oh, this is the echo. I'm gonna find Mr. Where is the flag? Oh, here, Mr. Roboto.
Mr. Roboto. Very noisy. I'm not sure. I'm not sure we like this. Eerie. Eerie. Yeah. Totally crazy laugh. Like, are you crazy? Wow, 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 This is the difference. This is